Ramesh, thank you so much for joining me today. You've had a career all over the world with a background in IT and technology. Do you see technology as an enabler for workforce transformation?
I would say that technology plays a very big role in improving both the efficiency and the effectiveness of the workforce. So we're talking about workforce transformation, and I think a lot of people focus much more on efficiency, meaning how do you become lower cost, but very often they forget that you can also make the organization much more effective in reaching out to your customers and so on. That makes the workforce much more effective. And technology does play a strong role in that. It's one of the 3 or 4 important vehicles that one should use.
And when you're advising your clients, are you talking to them about effectiveness as well as the productivity and cost savings of technology?
Absolutely, yes. So when one talks about improving the performance of an organization, it is not limited to becoming a lower cost. It's actually more important to figure out what is the trade-off becoming lower cost and becoming more effective. And so a good example would be if you were at a bank, for example, you could have fewer branches and you would have lower cost, but you're not very effective in reaching out to your customers. But to reach out to your customers, you need more people out in the field. So you need to figure out what the right balance is. And that's where it's important from a strategy point of view to say, how are you going to win your performance by balancing the two together?
And here in New Zealand, we're really just starting that digital journey and helping our customers understand what a digital future looks like. Where are you on that journey in Australia?
I think Australia has made many strides in the last 10, 15 years on that dimension. There are certain areas, such as in retail banking, where CBA, for example, is way ahead not only of its peers in Australia, but way ahead of many of the banks internationally within the US and Europe. So that would be a very good example of where they've made some strides. Another example would be I've worked on Wall Street, and some of the exchanges, the electronic exchanges, were pioneered in Australia. So there are several dimensions on which Australia is ahead. But at the same time, I would be the first one to say they're not ahead on everything. So for example, when it comes to retail and online commerce and so on, Australia is not advanced as much as, for example, you would find Korea or Japan or even China. You know, you look at Alibaba, for example, you know, it's one of the world's largest e-commerce business. We don't have something like that in Australia.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just how the different industries have evolved. Each one has evolved at its own pace. And I'm afraid that over the last 10, 15 years, the retail industry hasn't evolved as fast as some of its other sectors have. And I think there's some catch up to do on that front.
Apart from CBA, who do you see in Australia as being a really fantastic example of a company that's embraced technology and has become entirely digital?
There are a couple, but one that really sticks out for me is Seek.com. It's one of the world's best job search companies, and it's all electronic. And they've done a great job not only of growing the business in Australia, but they've also taken positions in different countries. And so now they're becoming they've become an international company. It's mostly electronic, it's all digital, and it's a very different world for them than compared to some of the more traditional job search firms.
And what advice do you give to companies that are nervous about the digital process and the CapEx investment that it involves?
I think a two-part advice. One is that if you do not get on the bandwagon soon, you'll be left behind, and the more you wait, the more difficult it will be for you to get on. So I think it's very important that people recognize the urgency of this. Technology is changing at a fast pace, but the pace is going to pick up even faster. And the longer you wait, the worse it'll get. And one example of that is, again, CBA invested in its core platform more than 9 to 10 years ago. And the other 3 banks now have to play catch-up. And so that's just one example of the price you pay if you wait too long. The second is, you asked me about capital investment. Yes, there's capital investment to be made, but do not bet it all on one technology. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of room here to do trial and error and to do what people call agile implementation, where you're implementing parts of it and improving on it over time and learning, rather than making one big bet and if things don't work out, going down the tube.
Yeah. And look, is cybersecurity something that you offer advice on?
Cybersecurity is an extremely important issue. I'm not an expert at it, but I think if there was one issue that faces not only the digital companies, but even the traditional companies. If you are a retailer like David Jones, if somebody can hack into your website and steal all your credit card information, you're in trouble. So I think cybersecurity has become a phenomenally big issue for businesses as well as for governments. Imagine, someone stealing the Medicare records, the information it gives you is just so damaging that you have to watch out for it. So I think both businesses and governments have to work together to invest a lot more into cybersecurity.
What technology or technology trend do you see as the most important for 2015 going into 2016?
It's not easy to predict which technology or technologies will be most important because there's so much going on in the technology world. But let me give me the liberty to pick two or three rather than just one. The mobile technologies, everybody's agreed on, and that's phenomenal, and everything is becoming mobile, and being able to access the internet anywhere, anytime is becoming very important. The other technology that I think has been underrated and is catching on is 3D printing or additive printing or manufacturing on the spot. And that will change the whole world of manufacturing. In many cases, we will not need these big factories to make the parts and the machines that we see. And one example I've seen recently is that at one of the universities in Australia, they made a jet engine, an aircraft jet engine, right through 3D printing, rather than Rolls-Royce making it in their factory.
Wow.
It is a big, so I think this whole world of manufacturing is going to change dramatically in the next 10 to 15 years. So those are at least two, and then other people talk about cloud, and I'm sure cloud will have some impact, but I wanted to pick on one that people don't talk about a lot.
And what do you see happening with cloud in Australia?
I don't think anything, what's going to happen with cloud in Australia is not anything different than what will happen elsewhere. What I mean by that is I do not, at least in my opinion, Australia is not at the cutting edge nor at the lagging edge. They're along with everyone else I think a lot of people are still trying to figure out what you can and cannot do with the cloud. Everybody has heard that word, but I think very few people really know what it means. Yeah. And I think people are still trying to figure out, is the cloud safe? Yes, people are getting more and more comfortable putting all their data up on the cloud, so to speak, but then is it safe? And again, we come back to your question on cybersecurity. Cloud will make cybersecurity even that much more imperative.
What's your own personal device of choice? Is it your mobile, your tablet, or your laptop?
It's my tablet. I carry my tablet everywhere. I really think back to when Steve Jobs introduced the iPad, and there were tablets before then, but when the iPad came out, a number of well-informed people and Wall Street analysts said that was the device nobody would buy because you had your mobile phone, you had a computer. Why would you need a tablet? And it's amusing to see and interesting to see how wrong they were. That here was a visionary. And to me, that's my most important device. If you ask me, what is the one device I carry around? It has all my newspapers, my files that I want to read. That's all I need on the plane is my tablet. I can do everything on it. It's just and my videos and everything. And who would have thought that 5 years or 7 years ago?
Just like the PC, it'll never catch on.
Right.